everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. First of all, you are watching the show Blonde and Beyond. Now, the reason I'm dressed like this is because the topic today is Purim. Purim will be celebrated on March 17th and March 18th. So in Purim, the main character is Queen Esther, who's the prettiest girl. You all heard about Queen Esther. So I try to make myself gorgeous like Queen Esther. So you should know. That's why I look like that. And now I will tell you who I am. I am the former supervising judge at the Workers' Compensation Board for the state of New York. I am also, my name is Lee B. First. And I am also the former president of the Metropolitan Women's Bar Association. I am also an author. I want to show you my book. Justice is Blonde. It's a story of my life. And the subtitle is The Unorthodox Story of an Orthodox Woman. It's very funny and a humorous book I wrote about my life. And now I will begin. Purim, by the way, is a holiday that is celebrated with happiness and joy. The theme is happiness. We all have to celebrate. So first I will tell you a joke about happiness. This boy gets married to a girl, and after a week he said to her, "I did not know what happiness is until I married you. Now it's too late." Very funny. Also, you heard about the husband who says, "My wife and I, we are so happy, we are so compatible, we have everything in common. You know what? We both love to fight." So happiness is all kinds of things. And in this situation, Purim, we have to all be together with the family to celebrate. It's like Pesach, but people in America do not celebrate Purim as much. Pesach is the most celebrated holiday that we have. However, so the story is told, this man, he calls up his son in California, and he said, "Listen, Abe, I'm divorcing your mother. I've been married 30 years and I can't tolerate it. I hate her, so I'm getting a divorce." So the son said, "Dad, please stop that. I'm coming right home. I'll be home tomorrow. Don't do anything till I get there." Then he calls up his daughter in California. He said, "Listen, Mary, I want to tell you something. I'm divorcing your mother now. I can't stand it. 30 years is enough." She looks at him, she said, "Listen, Daddy, she says on the phone, don't do anything rash. I'll be home tomorrow." So the father hangs up the phone. He looks at his wife. He says, "You want to know something? They're all coming home for Purim." So if that's how we get them home, we're going to have to do that. That's how it is. Now we start the story of Purim. Purim is recorded in a Megillah. They call it Megillas Esther. Not in a book. You call it Megillah. What is a Megillah? A Megillah is like you wind up the paper like a roll. A roll. It's read from a roll. And the word Esther means hidden, because she hid the fact that she was Jewish when she married the king. So let's start from the beginning. In the 500 BCE, what happened is there was a kingdom in Persia, and the king's name was Xerxes. And what happened is, we call him Achashverosh, and he was married to a girl named Vashti. She was the daughter of a king. She was very high class. And he was a little bit of a lowlife. So he made a very big party, invited all his friends, and he had food and everything, and to show off the queen to his friends. And he ordered her to appear, but she did not appear. And the legend says the reason she did not appear is because he ordered her to appear naked, because he wanted to show off how much power he has over her. And I heard this joke. The only person is a doctor. A doctor can ask a wife to undress and send the bill to her husband. He's the only one who can do that. Anyway, since Vashti did not appear, everyone in the town said, if the king's wife doesn't obey him, they didn't have women's lib then. If the king's wife does not obey, then no woman will obey her husband, so therefore he has to leave her and divorce her. So he sent her away. But now he had to go and find a new wife. So in the town, they decided to make a beauty contest. to be held in the king's house, and they rounded up 1,000 gorgeous girls, and he will choose who will be the queen, because he didn't want to be without a wife. You know, in Jewish legend, it says that a man is not complete until he's married, and then he's finished. In other words, when he wanted to get a wife. So there was a nice Jewish girl, Esther. She was very, very pretty, and she lived with her uncle. His name was Mordecai. And Mordecai said to Esther, you should go into the beauty contest. She really didn't want to go, but he said, look, you never know. If you become the queen, you might in one time be able to protect the Jews if anything should happen. So please apply. So when she got there, all the girls were putting on makeup. They all had these concubines, these other women to dress them, put makeup on them, and they took many months till they saw the king. But Esther didn't wear any makeup. She came as she was. And you heard the story, the comedian said, you know, it takes my wife 1 hour to put her lipstick on. So he said, how come? He said, because she has a big mouth. So Esther was like a natural, au naturel, and the minute the king saw Esther, he fell in love with her, and she was designated to be the queen. But she never told him her identity, that she was Jewish, and the word Esther, as I said, means hidden, because that's in Hebrew, means hidden, because she wouldn't say who she was. And therefore, on Purim, because of her hiddenness, if you go to synagogue or you walk in the street, you see all the little kids, all grown-ups, they put on costumes, and they also wear masks like this, because they want to be hidden as to who their true identity really is, what their identity is. So we wear costumes. That's just to commemorate what Esther did. Now Esther is married to the king, and now there arose a villain. His name was Haman, Haman the villain. And today, in the newspapers that you read every day today, you see who the villains are today. It's the lawyers, because I'm still a lawyer. I used to be a judge. So what they write about lawyers, they ask, why are lawyers buried 20 feet deep when they die, rather than, say, 6 feet? You know why? Because deep down they are good people. Also, the question has been asked, what is it when you see 2,000 lawyers drowning in the river? The other guy said, a good beginning. So this is how they talk about lawyers. But here we have Haman. He was a villain, and when he walked in the street, he was the chief assistant to the king. And so he had a lot of power. So when he walked in the street, he expected everyone to bow down to him, like they do to the king. But Mordecai was walking in the street, and he did not bow down, because he was Jewish. Jewish people do not bow down before idols or before other people. So therefore, he was very angry. And he came to the king. And Haman said to the king, there is a certain people that will not obey the laws of this nation, and I must try to kill him. So the king didn't know. He trusted him, and he didn't know what he was talking about. He said, okay, you want to kill those people? Well, they're the Jews. He said, all right, kill the Jews, but do whatever you want. I give you authority. So this Haman was the happiest man in the world, and he chose lots, because in those days people were very superstitious. So he didn't know which day he would kill them, so the lot that he chose, it came out to be the 14th day of Adar. Adar is a month right now, we have Adar coming up. So he chose that day, and then he found out that day was the day Moses died. Moses was a very famous Jew. If he died that day, then it's a good omen. But he didn't know that Moses had his birthday on the same day. Because according to Jewish tradition, we say if a man is very holy, he can be born on one day and die on the same day. That's how it works, to show how holy he is. So Haman was so happy, he had his day. What does lots mean in Persian? It means Purim. That's why we call it Purim, based on lots. Which reminds me of a joke. This guy, the Jewish guy, wants to win the lottery. So he goes to Israel, stands by a wall. Dear God, he said, let me win the lottery. And he doesn't win. The next day he says, dear God, let me win the lottery, and he doesn't win. This goes on a week. After a week, he hears a voice from heaven, and God says, you cheapskate, why don't you buy a ticket? Very funny, because you have to, God helps those who help themselves. Anyway, so it came out on that day, and he erected gallows, Haman, and he wants to kill all the Jews. In the meantime, in the story, the king Ahasuerus couldn't sleep one night. So he called for some people to read him stories from his book of merits, people who did meritorious actions, and they're reading to him a story about Mordechai. And then they read that Mordechai was a nice man, and he heard people planning to kill the king, and therefore he told it to him, and he saved the king's life. This is written in the book of meritorious actions. So the king said, who's this Mordechai? Did we ever honor him? Did we ever thank him? So the people said, no, we did nothing for him. Just as he said that, Haman walked into the king's room. So the king looked up at Haman. He said, what is it that you would do for a person who has saved the king's life, whom we wish to honor? So of course Haman thinks he's talking about me. Of course he thinks that. So he said, well, I would put this man on a horse, a white horse, and then somebody has to pull him through the whole city, and everyone has to say, this is the honor that the king does for someone who saved the king. This is the honor. So the king said, that's a great idea. We will put Mordechai on this horse, and you will pull him through the city. Well, Haman nearly fainted because he had the gallows up. He was so happy he's going to kill Mordechai and all his people. And all of a sudden, he has to go pull a Mordechai through the streets. But he could do nothing about it. He had to do that. So as he was doing and screaming out, he passed his own house. And his wife said, if Mordechai can do that to you already in the beginning, you will have no success to kill the Jewish people, because I can see already that you're not successful in what you are planning. And his daughter looked out the window, but she thought the guy pulling was Mordechai, and the guy on the horse was Haman. So she took all the garbage and everything she had in the house and threw it on top of the guy pulling the horse, which in effect was her father. And later when she found out that it was her father, she was so ashamed that she dishonored her father that she committed suicide subsequent to this incident, the daughter. Anyway, this is what happened now. And of course, then Haman still planned to kill the Jews on the 14th of Adar. So Mordechai came over and he called Esther down. He said, Esther, I want to tell you something. If all the Jews are going to be killed in Persia, you will not escape punishment. Therefore, you are the queen, you're close to the king, you have to go and see the king and tell him what the plans are. And she was afraid to do that. She said, you cannot just go to the king. But the king loved her so much, which reminds you of a joke. They say, this man is married 10 years to this woman, and he still finds her entertaining, especially when he comes home unexpectedly. So what happened? The king said, okay, I will meet you. She said, I want to make a big banquet now, and on this banquet I'm going to invite Haman. And Haman was so happy, he was invited to the queen with the king, and she made the banquet. She served wine and food and everything. Because she served the wine for this banquet, we Jewish people have to drink wine on Purim. We can drink liquor too, it doesn't matter. And also, what happened to Haman, Ahasuerus also had a banquet where he let go of Vashti, and they also drank a lot of wine. So we are commanded that we have to get drunk on Purim. So drunk that we cannot tell the difference between Mordechai and Haman. So therefore, wine. I was thinking of a joke about wine, and that is, what is a wine for Jewish women? And you know the answer? I want to go to Florida. I want to have a mink coat. I want everything. That's a Jewish wine. Anyway, so we have to drink wine. So she served the wine in the middle of the dinner. She said to the king, Ahasuerus, you know, there's a certain man, a bad man, and he wants to kill my people. Ahasuerus said, how could it be? There's no one. You saw I love you. So she said, that man is sitting right here. Right here, Haman wants to kill your people. He got so mad, and he said, hang him on the gallows. The same gallows that he made to hang the Jews and hang Mordecai on, we will hang Haman. And later on, they also hung all his sons. He had 10 sons. He had a daughter and the 10 sons. They hung him on the gallows also. So in other words, he did not prevail. And all the Jews had fasted before when she went to see the king. And she fasted, Esther, and that's why on the day of Purim, on the 17th, we all fast. It's known as Thomas Esther. We fast. And at night, we eat after the fast, but the big meal that we have is the next day to celebrate Purim. But anyway, she fasted, and people sat on sackcloths, and they did everything, you know, praying to God. And God helped them, and Haman was killed, and she saved the Jewish people. This is known as a great miracle among the Jewish people. That's why we call it is a hidden miracle, because Megillus Esther, that book, that Megillah does not have the name of God in it. There are no books like that, but this one doesn't, because God was hidden. It is a coincidence. Everything in the book is a coincidence. So what do we say? It wasn't splitting of the Red Sea. It wasn't a miracle that everybody could see. So what do we say? What is a coincidence? A coincidence is really a miracle, but God is anonymous. You always have to remember, nothing happens by itself. Everything that we think is a coincidence, God has planned it like that. And that's why we are extremely happy that this miracle happened. And I heard a joke about a miracle. This 94-year-old woman, she wakes up. She says, Moshe, it's a miracle. I am dead. So Moshe said, really? How can you tell? She said, I'll tell you the truth. Nothing hurts me today. And that's another miracle when you get older. You see? What happened is that after that, all the Jews celebrated one day, and they celebrated the next day. The news came out in Shushan Purim, they came out in another town. So in Jerusalem, they celebrate a different day. It's when the other Jews were saved. There were 2 cities where all the Jews were saved, and Esther saved them. It's when evil has been eradicated and good has triumphed. It shows you that when people speak up against evil, to keep silent is not the golden rule. Silence is golden. Among Jewish people, you have to speak up against evil, and that way we can eradicate it. Like what happened, they all prayed, and they say prayer works, and prayer overcame the evil decree of what was figured out by Haman, and of course what the king said he could do. Unbelievable. Now, there were many Purims, different incidents in the history of the Jewish nation. You know, we've always suffered. And in Frankfurt, there was a man, he was a baker, and he got up and he said, I want to kill all the Jews in Frankfurt. And he spoke to all the people, and they were ready to kill the Jews. And many coincidences happened, so that in the end, his house burned down, his business went bad, and he was killed instead of the Jews. So in 1615 that was, so every year on the same day, the Jews celebrated a holiday like Purim. That was in Frankfurt. So they say, what did they eat for their main course? Frankfurters, of course, they had Frankfurters. So what happened now, when they killed all these 10 sons, and when we read the Megillah, the names of the 10 sons are listed one under the other, and you have to read them very fast. But in 1947, the Nuremberg trials happened, and there the 11 Nazis went on trial for murder, to be hanged. They had the gallows. And there, Goering, he committed suicide. So only 10 Nazis were hanged. He committed suicide before. He took poison. So what happened then, when we read the Megillah, we have discovered something, that next to some of the sons' names, there were little Hebrew letters. And these letters add up to the year 1947, because in Hebrew, every letter has a numerical value and a mystical significance. When we take the letters here, it adds up 1947. So when they killed the Nazis, they all went to the gallows, but one of them went screaming, and his name was Julius Streicher. And what his last words were, "This is Purim Fest. This is the holiday of Purim," repeated. Everyone cannot believe that he would say that. He wasn't even Jewish. In other words, the 10 were hanged, and he committed suicide, Goering, and he had a sister committed suicide. So it is a repetition, actually, of what happened on Purim. And in Purim, they predicted that already, because we, in our Bible, we have codes. The codes means that we take our Torah, which is the Bible, and we count, like every seventh letter, flash it on the screen, and after that, it comes out what's going to happen in the future. Everything has been predicted. There's a man who wrote a book, The Codes. Now, what did we find there in a certain chapter in the Bible? It says Auschwitz, murder, and it says Hitler. All the letters that we flash. In other words, in here, there was a prediction that ultimately there's going to be another Purim, a Nuremberg trial, that good people will triumph over bad people. But unfortunately, that was after they killed 6 million, but it's the most amazing discovery. We cannot believe it. It was just discovered because we had no idea what would happen in 1947 when we added up the letters. In our Torah, we see all the codes, but we don't know for the future. Only backwards we can find, look, this was in the Bible, this was in the Bible. So besides wine and food, we also have to eat humantashen, which is like cakes made in the shape of Haman's hat. And the sides are bent over, and there's a filling in the middle which is hidden, and the filling is apricots or prunes, and they hide the filling because Esther hid her identity, so we eat humantashen. Also, we have to read the Megillah 2 times, once at night and once the next morning. And every Jew must hear the Megillah. And what we do is we go to synagogue, and what do? When we hear the name Haman, we make a lot of noise. We stamp our feet, or we have a grog or a noisemaker, and this is the only time when the rabbi in the shul does not say, "Be quiet, we're praying, be quiet." He says, "Make noise, you're not making enough noise," just the opposite. Now what there is, and we also have to give money to poor people. We go to synagogue, and we send gifts to poor people, and if you don't know poor people, we send gifts to our friends, only food, to show that we share the meal with them. So now what we do is, at least 2 gifts have to be mailed out. But since it's a lot of work, and we have a lot of friends, we give the money to the synagogue or to a charity, and they wrap up the gift, and they send the gifts out. So now there is a certain sect today that don't believe that we should get Israel now, because we don't keep the Shabbos, we are not perfect Jews, we should wait for the Messiah. And one of the sects is a Satmar. Now the question is asked, why does it take twice as long to read the Megillah in the Satmar synagogue as in our synagogue? And the answer is, they make noise and stamp their feet when they hear the name Haman, and also when they hear the name Medina, the land, because they think it refers to Israel. They also stamp their feet. Also, we have to give money to children, Purim geld, not presents like we do on Hanukkah. We give a little bit of money, it's known as Purim geld. So I heard the story, this grandmother came to visit Purim, and she put the kids to bed, and she said to the little boy, "Say your prayers." So he said, "Dear God, I want $100 for Purim geld. I want $100 for Purim geld." So the brother said, "Listen, why are you screaming at God? God can hear you no matter what level you speak at with your voice." So the boy said, "Yes, but Grandma can't." Very funny. So this is Purim. I want you all to be happy, and remember to go to synagogue and Also, if you're sick, then the synagogue will send you someone to read the Megillah. If you're in a hospital, they have volunteers to come to you. I hope you enjoy your Purim and eat a lot and drink a lot. Okay? Goodbye.